I just like grew up very, I don't know what the word is, just like very reserved, very shy. I guess like my family and my culture is always like, you know, the female takes care of the family. And so my mom worked full time since she was 18, but she also did everything at home. So she did all the kid stuff, all the cooking, all the cleaning, and worked full time, you know, shuttled the kids, like everything, right? And so I thought that's what like I needed to do. So that's what I did. Then I realized, you know, I was really unhappy with the way that I was sort of presenting myself. And at work, I would always get really uncomfortable when people would have arguments, or I would get into, like, God forbid, I would get into a conflict. I would super avoid all conflict. And even if there was like an argument over here that had nothing to do with me, I would get really nervous and I would have to like leave the room or like separate myself. It was just, I just could not deal with conflict.
I don't think anybody in here can relate to that.
Yeah.
Being facetious, we've even had some of those conversations.
Yeah, it was just really, like, I would get nervous, I would sweat, like nothing to do with me, right? And so I was like, this is stupid, this is really dumb. And then when it got to like my science, the whole point of peer-reviewed science is that you argue, right? Like debate, right? You have this piece of science, is it real or not, right? You present it to your peers, and the peers, you know, say, well, this is what we think. But instead, my brain kept saying like they're like attacking me personally, right? And that's really because I was like linking everything about my self-worth to my science, to my work, right? And so like it's just all wrong. Like all of it is like, so I'm still actually working on that, is how to separate self-worth from your work. And that's really super important. So yeah, so I was just like frustrated with life, really, about my job and about like the way that I was presenting myself and how I couldn't stand up for myself. Even though like on paper, I look super kick-ass, but like in my head, I'm like, I can't handle any of this, right? And then what I would do is after I had this, you know, argument, seemingly calm or whatever, however I presented myself, from the other side, I would go home and just turn it over and over and over in my head. What should I have said? What did I say wrong? If they had said this, what should I have said then? Like it would take me hours and days and weeks, and then nothing happened because I would never like confront the person, right? Like it's such a waste of time, and it was just terrible for your energy and your sort of promotion of yourself, right? So yeah, so I, because also at that point in time I was unemployed, and so I was like, well, I should get my ass off the couch and go to a gym. And so I decided to join a gym, and they had like 10 o'clock in the morning, it was like cardio kickboxing. So I thought cardio kickboxing was jazzercise, right? I'm like, I could do jazzercise, right? So I get in there, and there's just like thud, like these like, you know, super buff people kicking this bag that I'm like, how do you like kick that hard? And I tried kicking that bag like for the first time, and the bag hurt me more than I hurt the bag. Like that bag was really hard. So anyways, I just got fascinated with the fact that these people were so strong, you know, and like how beautiful it was in that sort of violence, if you want to say that, right? Because I was just so anti, you know, conflict. And so I got hooked. I never did karate when I was little. It was always sort of like frowned upon, like, you know, girls don't fight, you know. Yeah, so I got hooked. It was amazing, and the more that I did it, the more confidence I had. And then the better I was in the gym, then I was like, the next thing is to sort of like test myself to see if I can fight, right? Like, well, I think it was like Muhammad Ali that said, you know, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face, right? So it's like, think about it. Like, what would you do if somebody punched you in the face? Like, would you run away? Would you cry? Or would you punch them back, right? And so this is sort of like my parallel journey between entrepreneurship and fighting, because it's always just like getting punched in the face. Like, now what do you do? Like, do you get up and keep going, or, you know, do you like stop, right? Because like there's been numerous times on either path that I could have, should have stopped, but I haven't. And I'm learning from both, you know, to keep going. So it's been really interesting. Felina's been, you know, a big part of it from the beginning. And like, honestly, this is where I was, I think it was 2 years ago.
About a year and a half.
A year and a half ago. And I just, you know, popped in and I said, hey, what is this Hera Hub place, right? And Felina's like, hey, why don't you come to this weekend thing? And I showed up. And so a year and a half later, you know, I'm here talking about my journey. So I took a lot out of this. What was it, 17 steps? I literally went home and I'm just like checking off the list. I'm a list person, and I just went down the list and checked them all off. And that's how I started my business, like, honestly. So, you know, thank you, Felina, for the 17 things. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. I don't know if you want to know more about my business, or
so describe the product a little bit. So you started to tell the story and then I derailed you a little bit. So you were in the gym and hydration was something you were conscious of, and so talk about the kind of the inception.
So I was in the gym, I'm exercising, and I realized I need more water than other teammates, and I kept cramping. And, you know, they kept saying, like, you know, just drink water whenever you're thirsty, right? So I'm drinking water. It just wasn't working. And then I was looking on the market for something to help me with hydration. So, of course, I'm a scientist, so I start doing more research, and I realized females in general need more water. And then it was front of mind for me, too, because I almost fainted several times while I was pregnant, too. So, you know, everybody says, you know, when you're pregnant, you have to drink a lot of water, but like, how much? Like, what do you know? And so I was kind of frustrated, like, there's nothing out there, and then all the apps were sort of like user input. Like, well, that doesn't help me, right? Like, I have to put in, I have to tell you how much water, and then you tell me back or something. So it didn't make sense. And then the other ones were like the water bottles that sort of like give you alarms and stuff like that. And what I wanted to do was like, what exactly is going on inside my body, right? Like, do I need water? And you're different from me. You know, I'm an amateur kickboxer. This 300-pound dude is also an amateur kickboxer, but like our hydration needs are very different, right? So, so then I started thinking about like what I can do as, you know, a scientist, and using what I knew about spectroscopy. So it's like, it's basically the same technology as the pulse oximeter that goes on your finger, and so it's just different, you know, lights, different wavelengths of lights that are sensitive to different molecules in your skin or in your tissue. And so we designed it so that we are looking at blood flow, skin tone, fat content, as well as hydration. And then we actually look at a relative change. So the relative change basically means that it calibrates it to yourself, right? So whatever it is that you have, you can say, okay, I'm entering a workout and now I'm this much dehydrated from my optimal range. And so so we started doing that. We added some, you know, machine learning and then the algorithms behind it. So it just became this like really cool thing as it like evolved. It just came from this idea that, you know, I just wanted to know more. And I thought, you know, maybe it could be viable. I had no idea. So I came in here, I talked to Felina. Felina's like, that sounds like a good idea. So I did my 17 things. And then I got linked up with Sylvia Ma. At the time it was called Hera Labs, which was operating out of Hera Hub. Now it's called Stella Labs. And then went through their program. So it was sort of like this, a bunch of things happened, and I kept going, and then eventually I ended up going through Ad Astra, which is sort of like a more advanced accelerator program. And now I'm just off and running. I have a team of 5, and an offshore developer software team. I have a product. You know, it's a tiny. I forgot to bring it. It's
kind of the size of the face of your watch. Is that?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like 1.5 inches. It's like a little hockey puck. And basically, the idea is you can actually put it anywhere on the body because everything is on the wrist. All the sort of Fitbits and Apple Watches and stuff like that. And I can't have anything on my wrist because I'm punching and I have gloves on. And so I put mine on the chest. It sort of goes underneath the sports bra and it's really nice. You know, and I thought, well, if it's relative, basically we subtract out all of the differences, which is why we can look at skin tone, for example, because you know, a lot of the Fitbits and Apple Watches don't work well with darker skin, which nobody talks about, which is something else I want to touch on later as females. And then, yeah, and so cyclists can put it on their legs, for example, and you can have different areas that you're interested in for different sports. So yeah, so basically designing the product for all these specifics and all of these personalized aspects. And so we're looking at personalized continuous hydration monitoring, which does not exist currently. So most of the things out there are sweat-based, or if they're optical-based, they're sort of not using this sort of relative measurement and learning algorithms that you're able to extract sort of your personal optimal hydration range. We started off as a consumer device and then quickly realized that the consumer market was very, very fickle, especially in sort of like the athletics sports world. And so we pivoted to B2B, so now we're marketing to collegiate teams. So we're actually in 2.5 weeks, we're starting in University of San Diego. And we're testing on their women's volleyball and football teams. So that's super exciting. Been working on that for quite a while. What else? Oh yeah, so the thing I wanted to talk about was the way that women think is very different when you're running a company. And not just women, but like a diverse background, right? So whatever it is that your background is. Because for me, it's like I noticed that women needed water differently, right? I noticed different skin types needed different hydration needs. And so I think women are specifically more sort of empathetic to your customers than traditional sort of like male-run companies. And so I think that's very, very unique. At least for my product, is that, you know, so for example, the Paralympics is very interested because a lot of times Paralympians, they either don't sweat, so they can't use the sweat sensors because of metabolic issues, or, you know, they have different, like you can't, you know, there's specific things that they needed, especially for the personalization piece, right, for the Paralympians. And so I think for to come with your sort of background and your own thoughts and your own sort of empathy for your customers is super important and really, really cool to like step into. And that's something that I didn't realize was a strength. And now I'm like fully, you know, going towards that. And I think that's something that, you know, we should acknowledge and really step into and just say like, look, this is my background. This is what I'm dealing with. I'm a kickboxer. I know exactly what this means, you know, and make your product so that, you know, it serves, you know, different people, right? Because like for Fitbits and stuff, that nobody talks about how it doesn't work with like darker skin. Like, have you heard of anybody talk about it? No, right? But then when I ask my friends, they're like, oh yeah, sometimes it doesn't work, it's okay, you know, we put up with it. I'm like, why? Right? Like nobody talks, like nobody cares. You know, so that's frustrating. But yeah, so you know, those are the things that you can make better, right? Like make your products better for the people that you're serving.
Debbie, have you raised money along the way? Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah, so I've raised $380,000 so far. Yeah, so it's a lot, but not a lot. So it's a lot when you're thinking about just starting a company. But because I have hardware and software and it's a high-tech company and high growth, it's really not that much. So most people are looking for like $2 million. So it's enough to get me started, to start off the team. My team is not full-time. They're still all on contract. I'm still, trying to fundraise for that big amount. But yeah, it's been difficult, but I think I'm just starting to like get the groove going. And that's been a huge learning curve, as well as like, how do you talk to investors? Do you even need investment? Like if you don't, amazing, right? Don't do it if you don't have to. Because I feel like everybody thinks that they do.
Totally. And I blame it on Shark Tank.
Yeah,
everybody watches Shark Tank,
right.
And they all think that they,
Yeah, so if you don't need investors, don't do it. If you do, you have to figure out what type of investors, right? Is it angel investors? Is it like family offices? Is it VCs? Like they're all very, very different. And each of them require different things, or they're interested in different things from the company. And their motivations are very different as well. So that's been something that, took me a really long time, and I'm still learning how to manage those relationships and how to understand, what they want. So for example, everybody thinks like, okay, I'm gonna go raise from venture capital, but you have to realize the goal of a venture capital, fund is to make money, right? And they have to make money in a very certain amount of time. And in order to pay their customers, which is their partners, basically what they have to do is say, okay, I give you this amount of money, and then I have to make you make 10 times that money so that you can give me back that money so then I can pay back my customers. And so what happens is they try to push the growth really fast. And so if you're not ready to grow, that might be an issue, right? But if you're ready to grow, that's great because you get a ton of money and then you grow really fast, right? So it's kind of like trying to figure out what you want. If you're, on the angel level, which is sort of where I'm at right now, you're sort of working with an individual. So you really have to understand like who that individual is and what he or she might want. So some angels are like, okay, yeah, I'll just give you this money because I trust you, I think you're amazing, go, right? Other angels are like, oh, okay, I want to help you run this company, right? And so if you want that, great, because if you can use their expertise, that's fantastic, right? But then if they become this sort of terrible pain in your side, which a lot of times they do, then that's a problem as well, right? So yeah, it's complicated, but there are, people out there, and you just have to find the right fit for you.